Hey Megan. Hey Dr. Marie. How are you?
Hello.
Hey,
How's
so
it
good to
going?
great. How are you, Dr. Marie?
I'm doing great.
All right. Hey everybody. Thank you for coming on the live stream. I have a quick bio. We are here today with Dr. Marie Sikora, DVM, CVA, CVSMT. She has obtained her veterinary degree in 2019 from the UW-Madison. Previously did her undergraduate studies there as well in dairy science. She became certified in Chinese medicine and acupuncture through, am I saying this right, the Chai Institute in 2019 as well. Later became a certified in veterinary spinal manipulative therapy at Healing Oasis Wellness Center in 2021. Dr. Marie started at Country View Equine Clinic in 2022 after a few years of practice in southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois. In her free time, do you have free time? Really? She she enjoys playing polo and trail riding with her horses Rocket and Mojo, as well as spending time outdoors with her family, including her husband, 3-year-old son, and 1-year-old daughter. Yay! Thank you so much for coming on. Maybe you could give us a little bit of history on how you went down this crazy horse path and why did you want to be a vet?
Well, thank you. Welcome, everybody. Nice to be here. My little bit of my saga. So I grew up not actually in a horse family, but begged to take riding lessons since I was a little kid and finally gave in at 7. So took riding lessons at a little hunter jumper barn, did 4-H, did a little bit of everything like through middle school, and ended up buying a thoroughbred who unfortunately passed away like 2 weeks after I bought him. I had leased him for years, and so it was actually a total freak thing, but sparked my interest in veterinary medicine. So as much as it's kind of a sad story, it is kind of what takes me back to like my first memory of thinking about being a vet. And I kind of went back and forth and being like, maybe I want to do something else. Who knows? Going through high school, and kind of always came back to like, nope, don't really want to do anything else. So I'm going to be a vet. And so I went to the University of Wisconsin Madison for undergrad, and I did actually study in dairy science. Dairy science and animal science were still 2 separate degrees at that time. They're combined now. But it ended up just kind of some mentorship in the path I took. I had some large interests in all mixed large animal. I wasn't necessarily as specific in equine, even though I grew up riding. And so kind of did that and did some research and had a lot of fun in some of the repro labs and things like that. But end goal was vet school. I did actually get my tech degree. So I became a certified veterinary technician before vet school and did that for a year in between, and then was a technician at the vet school through vet school to help pay for some things, and got to learn a lot. So get my hands on in the large animal hospital. Otherwise, since graduation, so stayed, as I said, in Wisconsin for veterinary medicine and for all of my schooling. I got to travel a lot for our last year of school, is like all clinical practice. And so we get to do 2-week basically externships. And so traveled the country and did a lot of different things there, which was an awesome experience. And then ended up taking a job it was Badger Equine Clinic or Badger Veterinary Hospital, based out of Janesville, Wisconsin, out of school, with a really great core team. And through the first couple of years of practice, like I said, practiced in southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois. Really like the area. I'm originally from Sheboygan area, Wisconsin, which is not too far, about 2 hours northeast along the lake. But really like the southern Wisconsin area, so stuck around. Country View, I was mentored by all of the doctors at Country View through undergrad and vet school. and my early career. I did a lot of work through Equitarian Initiative with Dr. Judy. And so through all of that kind of pieces of the puzzle, like I've always been good friends and mentors with all of them. So kind of dream job to work at Country View forever. And it didn't work out right out of school, which hindsight worked out great. I got to go learn things at a different place and come back to my dream job. So super happy now, right place, right time. And it just worked out. I started there in 2022. So Country View, for those of you that don't know the practice, is now a 5-doctor practice in Oregon, Wisconsin, or based out of Oregon, Wisconsin. We cover a pretty good radius of kind of the greater Madison area and south of Madison. And we do have a clinic that has a nice small facility, 3 stalls inside, and a stocks and a treatment area, and then an arena that we can do lameness and other work in, and some stalls out there for like breeding and dentistry, just kind of housing horses. So we're very fortunate to have a really awesome core team. We've got great staff that is super supportive. Our technicians, assistants, everybody is wonderful. And yeah, I couldn't ask to work with a better group. Absolutely. Megan's totally right. I am spoiled every day. I absolutely love every one of them, but also like makes things run smoothly. And even despite chaos, because in veterinary medicine, there's always something, we can laugh through the most of it or cry if you need to, but it's still wonderful people to be with. So we're very fortunate. Let's see, anything else to touch base on? I guess horses, kind of since growing up, I, like I said, I grew up in 4-H and kind of did a little of the like English Western pleasure showing, just some fun shows. I dabbled in dressage and jumping quite a bit through like middle school and high school. And as I had changed horses and went to college, I pretty much just trail rode when I had time, which was great. And in college, my junior year of college, I like got wind, a friend of mine that I was working with at the vet school. It's like, you should come, like, we're going to take a polo lesson for the first time. And I was like, I have no time for this, but that sounds fun. Okay. And so I did and was hooked instantly. It was so fun. So we kind of created the UW Polo Club with that first group, and it kind of skyrocketed. I was totally addicted. And so now that is my horse passion in the current is polo. I play outdoor, but we still help sometimes with the college team, and they play indoor through the college season, which works out great. We sometimes will share horses or lease horses back and forth. I've leased my horses to them and vice versa. So it's a blast.
I have a question. What is your focus at the clinic? Like, what do you, lameness, general, like, what do you like to focus in on? And
yeah,
you don't just work with horses.
Very true. So we mostly do equine, mostly horse clinic, but we do see the occasional sheep, goat, llama, alpaca. And that's kind of fun. I really wanted to do a mixed large animal coming out of school. And so did a little bit more with that, even with my first practice. And it's fun to have the tools and get to focus on equine because we get to do better medicine and just more intensive care. But it is still fun to like keep up with some of the farm animals. So that's good. As far as my favorites, like we all kind of have our niches within the clinic, which makes it great to work in a group practice. I would say my biggest focuses are because of the like alternative medicine or integrative medicine modalities that I get to use as well. So lameness is kind of a big one that integrates with the equine chiropractic or spinal manipulation therapies that I get to do, as well as acupuncture and Chinese medicine. So all of those kind of integrate together into making lameness really fun. So I do really like lameness. I do really like breeding work. So Dr. Judy and myself do most of the breeding work, spring and summer, basically in this time of the year, this area of the country. But we, so those are probably my like top passions. If you put all of the integrative stuff together, I definitely spend a lot of time doing that. However, I am not someone that likes to just do one thing. So I really enjoy getting to see different things. Like I love general practice in that I get to do different things every day, and some just backyard horses and some amazing sport performance horses. And so there's just such a variety, and I really love that about general practice. So just some of the like preventative care is on the top of my list. What else?
Trying to unmute myself, sorry. So what's like one of the biggest challenges right now in the practice? Is it certain illnesses sweeping across the country, or the cold temperatures of winter, or like what's the biggest? I don't know if you can narrow it down or not, but
yeah, it can kind of go in waves, but I would say right now, like that cold snap makes things really hard. It's just everything freezes. So being practical and trying to use equipment that can't be used in certain cold weather, and just using your hands when it's negative 25 below is just not fun. So that is a huge challenge being here. Like luckily it doesn't last long, right? But winter is hard sometimes, harder and harder. But I love the snow. So if we had kept that foot of snow, it would have been really nice. But I have to say that's probably the biggest challenge, like in the moment. Equine work in general can be a little seasonal, or historically was seasonal. It kind of is less and less. We don't have much of a slow time anymore. It used to be like winter was our slow time. We catch up on everything, the lists we've made for ourselves all year round. It can take this month to catch up on, but there's littler time of catch up than there used to be, but I can't complain. I'd rather be busy than not. So
now Country View is the official vet of the Midwest Horse Fair, which Midwest Horse Fair is April 17th, 18th, and 19th. Now, what does that mean, being the official vet? Like, what does your typical day at horse fair look like? And does it really start on the 17th?
Perfect. So yes, we've been doing horse fair. Our practice has been the official vets of horse fair from officially 2018 on. I think we kind of split it in 2017, if I remember right. But it basically entails quite a bit of prep work throughout the year. Dr. Stephanie at our practice kind of heads up a lot of that prep work. So she attends several meetings, starting, I think, even in August of last year, to start prepping for this year. There's a couple in between, but then this time of year, starting in January, they do monthly meetings with a pretty large group of all of every little bit and detail has to have somebody cover it. So there's quite a few people that are in the mix to head up coordinating everything. That is a ton of moving parts that make Midwest Horse Fair. They've kind of had record-breaking numbers basically the last 3 years, I think, have continued to go up. And so it's really been more and more horses. So how that kind of looks, Thursday is kind of the big welcome day. Everybody has to be in by usually 9 p.m. And get settled into their stalls. We check health papers. We often have vet students that help kind of go through that. So it's kind of a nice thing for them to get their hands wet with just doing equine health work. So all horses out of state need certain paperwork, and horses even in state need paperwork. So everybody needs a Coggins that's valid and matches the horse, is signed appropriately, is dated appropriately. And so we get it's easy to do, everybody needs a Coggins. So we're in the horse world, everybody's heard of that, but it also acts very importantly as identification. And so with travel, it obviously requires that. And then health certificates, depending where you are from, and especially if you're out of state. And so that health certificate really just says the horse has been examined by a veterinarian to be able to cross state lines, has not been exposed to other sick horses, is not sick itself. And so that is kind of covering our bases as far as disease management and things. So all horses come in on Thursday typically, and then it is open to the public Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so Friday morning is kind of the big hurrah, doors open early. There's a, endless car line to get parked, but all the horses and vendors and staff and event goers. So they're all usually in place and hopefully have gotten a chance to kind of settle in somewhat. So Megan, obviously you've shown and been a participant at the horse fair for several years. So you probably have a nice take of like that aspect behind the scenes of getting settled in. But for us, we have somebody on property the entire time, 2 people actually, for the most part. So we always have someone covering the barns and then someone covering quite a few other like special events. So they do the rodeo. There has to be a veterinarian present for the rodeo, circuits as well. So one of us has to cover the rodeo while the other person has to cover the barn. And then there's always someone available overnight. So we stay at the hotel that's just adjacent to the grounds. So we kind of rotate through that so that if anybody needs anything, we're right on the grounds. And then we also have helped in the past with the farrier competition. They have a veterinarian kind of on hand because it's a timed competition that some of the horses will stand there for like 8 hours. And so some will get sedated intermittently depending on what they need so they can get through that competition. So we've also manned that as well. And then we all also will give talks almost every year. We give at least a couple talks. So at least 3 or 4 of us will end up talking at some of the different neutrina rooms and talking about all sorts of different topics. We always come up with different things. So actually that is a great question for you all. If you have something that you're dying to hear about, we are just putting our talks together now. So I'm thinking about it. So maybe you could be influenced.
That's a lot. So how many, you've mentioned yourself and Dr. Steph, like how many from the clinic go? Because it doesn't sound to me like you get a bathroom break, to eat, to sleep, anything. So that can't be that crazy. I know it's crazy.
It's busy, but luckily horses do pretty well. We certainly see horses and we're kind of around and seeing people and talking. So it's a lot of moving parts, like creating the schedule. But when we're there, for the most part, is not too chaotic aside from like there's a lot going on. So just getting from one end to the other can take a little bit of hoofing it if you're gonna try to get somewhere quickly. But it's exhausting by the end of the week. But I think everyone that goes to horse fair or participates says that, so us included. But luckily we rotate. So Dr. Stephanie often kind of, like I said, heads up the prep work ahead of time. And she'll help the vet students and help with a lot of the organizing and intro. And then the Dr. Judy, Carly, and myself all rotate through so that we, take shifts of covering for the horse fair. We do also have to cover for our clinic at the same time. So we're kind of all hands on deck that weekend. If somebody's not at horse fair, they're covering on call for our clinic. And we're very good at like backing each other up, which is great. If somebody's somewhere else and I'm closer, I'll head there and you stay here, and it works out pretty well. So just a lot of talking and kind of running around and getting the schedule in order. But as far as actual medical work at the horse fair, we've been very fortunate, or horses have been very fortunate, that it's fairly minor. Horses usually kind of keep their stuff together, and most things are not majorly detrimental. So very few horses that have to leave each year, like maybe 1 or 2, and it's very circumstantial. But most can be handled just in the barn and just kind of talking through some things. And a lot of things are just like talking through what can we do? Like my horse is a little bit off. What can we do? Not before we get to major problems. So we're very fortunate that way.
Well, I am one of those people who is very excited to see you guys, and grateful that you're there, because one year I had a horse react to bedding, and it was so nice to have you there. So I greatly appreciate all the work that you put in. I don't want to see you other than like a hi bye, but it really is a relief to know that you're there, especially because you're my vet. So thank you for that. What is like a typical issue that you do see at horse fair? Is it more of an allergic reaction, or is it more lameness, or who knows?
Good question. I would say the most common thing is like stress. So just like all of us are exhausted and kind of stressed out with a lot of moving parts and so many things, there's a lot of horses that aren't used to that level or that caliber of a show. Even show horses that are used to going to a show are kind of used to their routine. And this is like a whole new beast. There's just so many people and so many other things going on at the same time that it's just a lot. It's very overstimulating. So a little bit of like GI discomfort, a lot of kind of ulcery feeling horses where they're just, the stress kind of gets to them. Like, this is too much and I don't know how to feel right now. So that's probably the most common thing we see. Certainly some minor colics, again, going along with just such a change of routine and added stress. Definitely the most common thing we see. Sure, there's often like on check-in, a couple small cuts or things like that, with the travel, or getting settled into stalls or barns or other things. But for the most part, those are on the top of the list.
You ever get asked about what people can do to kind of give their horses an opportunity at some point to relax in that environment? Like, I feel like the lights never get turned off in the barn, and these horses don't get any hard. I mean, it'll get quieter in the evening, but I feel like they don't really get a chance to truly relax and maybe catch a couple hours of sleep. So is there anything you like recommend to people as far as what they can do to help their horses get a chance to sleep a little bit or relax?
Good question. It is, and some of it is completely out of our control. Like you said, like the lights are on and there's just some things we can't control, but knowing your horse, like knowing your horse's normal is really important. And I do have people, like, especially in those situations where they're like, the noise bothers them. So the speakers and all of the ringing and even people going through the barns, the echoes, there's just a lot of different noise. And so I do find horses, like there's a couple areas as far as like the arenas and the back space and a little bit of grass area, and just like letting your horse get its head down to take a couple nibbles of grass, or just like letting them kind of free wander on a long line, even in the sand as you can, and just kind of get away from the noise. I know there's still like other horses and a lot going on in those back arenas, but most horses are comfortable with other horses, but all of the noise can just be a whole nother element. So I do think getting out and just kind of walking away and letting them just like walk at their leisure is helpful.
What do you wish owners knew? Like, what is a common thing you see that you wish you could tell every owner, whether it's the prep work or whether it's during Midwest Horse Fair, that you wish we all knew or did?
That's a good question. I would say it's just really important to know your horse and have taken them in different environments that maybe similar to horse fair. It's hard to recreate, but to take, a new horse for the very first time to something like that without going to different shows is really hard on those horses. And so I would say getting them some experience so that you can understand how they're feeling. If it's if they just want to be in their stall and left alone, there's a certain type of horse that would rather have that, even if there's chaos going on. There's some horses that need to get out of the noise and would rather be outside. And so getting to know your horse and how they handle those type of experiences is probably the most important thing I would have people do ahead of time, so that, if they have to call us, if we need to help because their horse is acting a little colicky, they can already tell us like, hey, this is my horse's normal. This is what they are used to or have never seen or never been around. And helping us get out of that element can really like help figure things out, like give us the opportunity to treat them medically.
So what's the craziest thing you've experienced in all the horse fairs?
Ooh, that's a good one. Craziest.
I don't know, a memory that stuck out as like, wow, this is a little wild.
Right. I don't want to get gory. There was like one pretty good head laceration that is dramatic. Like those are quite dramatic for the public, but luckily for us, our like head wounds often heal very well. Horses heal and look beautiful after fixing head wounds, so are quite satisfying for us to fix. So it was a pretty gory face wound, like a very large flap of it looks terrible, but stitched beautifully. And I think the horse still competed not the next day, but the day after, at least in light. I don't remember exactly what they were doing, but was able to still like long line and do what they came to do. So it was a success story, but was a little dramatic. It's just when there's so many people that have such different backgrounds, it obviously just keeping everybody calm is a bigger part of our job than anything. Like we're used to fixing that, right? We're used to seeing that on our day-to-day. That's normal. And, people that have horses and have had them for a long time probably have seen some of those too. But because it's open to the general public, there's so many people that have absolutely no context as to what horses are. And so I kind of think of it as like, going to the state fair. I used to show horses at the state fair, draft horses, and the questions that come through the state fair are like no other. And Midwest Horse Fair is kind of similar, not quite to that caliber, but kind of similar. And so it's always interesting. Like you learn things from every people you meet, right? But the general public can be anybody, and so it's important to just like ease over the situation and make sure kind of everything is kept like within context.
So day one for you is, we'll call it arrival day, Thursday, right?
Yep.
And you have about how many veterinarian students do you guys try to recruit to help for that day?
It depends. I think the last couple of years there were like 8 to 10.
And when do you guys have to be there? Like when are horses allowed to start rolling in the driveway? When do you have to show up? And then how long are you there?
I'm trying to remember. I think it's 8 a.m., but it could be 6. I could be wrong. So 6 or 8 in the morning. I think it might be 8 to 8 is like allowing horses to arrive. There's certainly trailers that are waiting there far before then. So there's quite the trailer line that starts. And just to get in and get settled. And then there's like plenty of people that have to travel far and don't roll in until far after dark. But it's broken up kind of nicely. Dr. Stephanie usually takes like most of that day and luckily is able to like kind of take a break here and there. One of us usually steps up and she'll like go have lunch and get some time, but it's not too intense because it kind of comes in waves. Like there'll be a whole group of trailers at the beginning, a lot of coggins and horses to check and everything else. But then usually there's a couple of waves where you have a half an hour break. So not terrible.
How does that work when the trailer, like the horses come in? Are you unloading and then examining them as they step off the trailer? Are you looking in the trailer? How does that work?
So you have to have all of your paperwork like pre-sent in, and then we kind of have a checklist compared to, so there's staff with the horse fair that will do kind of the check-in process, but we check the Coggins paperwork, health cert paperwork. So go through, compare to the horse. If you can see them well enough in the trailer, usually we look at them like on the trailer, and then as they're getting off, somebody kind of follows with them. So it depends how many people we have and where the trailers can go, because they get a chance to unload closer to the barns and then have to leave with the trailer. So it's a kind of moving process depending on what the trailer setup is. If it's an open trailer that we can see the horses and their markings very clearly, then they're usually like free to finish their check-in and drive to the other side of the barn. Otherwise, we'll watch them as they unload.
I'm sure, for people, Megan maybe remembers this her first time going there, but let's say this is the first year that somebody's going to bring their horse and exhibit. It's probably pretty nice to kind of get an idea of expectations, because I would imagine the nerves are strong and all that. It's really nice to have UW Vet School here in Madison to be able to get vet students locally.
Yeah.
What is there a certain year vet student that you guys are looking to have help, or?
Nope. Usually it's through the equine club. So there's several clubs within the vet school. They put together a group. And so any level of student can come. I think I did it all through vet school. Like, it was a reason to not go to school and hopefully enjoy a beautiful day hanging out with horses. So super fun. And getting to meet like veterinarians, which was nice. So even just getting to meet your local veterinarians as a younger vet student can be huge. Like, just making that connection and getting a chance to like talk and ask questions about real life veterinary medicine during the day is invaluable. Like, that goes a long way for vet students. And so I remember doing it as a student, and I very much encourage people to do it, because those small connections can lead to big connections like a job later on in life. So it's great.
Is it surreal to have been one of those vet students helping, and now you're one of the lead vets and you're teaching people whose shoes you were in not long ago? Is that a little surreal?
Kind of. Like, if I think about it, for sure. I mean, like, young me would have been like, "Oh, that's so cool." So I still think it's cool.
So who is your favorite patient?
Pammy, of course.
No, it's not. It's AJ.
That's so cute. I love that. Oh, that would be so impossibly hard. I don't think I could ever.
I don't think
ever
you
choose.
should. You love them all.
I know.
We're all watching you.
I was just telling Dr. Stephanie how much I have a soft spot for donkeys, even if I don't necessarily want to, and I just really do. So it might have to be a mini donkey, but
mini donkeys are the best.
And they're the opposite of Pammy.
It could be Pammy's best friend. Lisa, you should get a mini donkey.
No donkeys on our farm. But okay, I got a serious question. So let's say I have an emergency. How do I get a hold of you? Because I have your number. Should I call the clinic or should I text you?
Great question. So as you check in, they will have all of the information within the horse fair. They typically will tell you to go to the welcome center and they'll page us directly. Which, when there was kind of sketchier services within the barn, it was kind of nice. Truthfully, we are all still answering our phone. So if there's like if you called our regular emergency line, the person on call for the clinic will be the one answering. And so they'll kind of just redirect whoever's at the horse fair to call you back. So, but typically we'll just meet you at the welcome center and then walk with you back to the stall. So for the general public, especially if we're not your normal veterinarian, to just meet us at the welcome center. That way we know who you are, what stall to go to, or they'll page us to go straight to the stall if you can't leave your stall. Like, if you need to be with your horse in the stall, they'll tell us which stall to go to, and we'll just meet you at the stall. But it is, it's great because we can be there on scene, and we're all very good. Like veterinary medicine, especially right now, is fantastic in that there's no real competition or hard feelings. Like we treat the horse to kind of diffuse the situation, and then are happy to talk with their primary veterinarian, whether they're, local or far away, to say like, I think you should follow up. This is kind of what I saw that day. This horse best. Is there something else that we should know about? So just communicating with their primary veterinarian is also a big part of what we do if it's not our own clients.
So let's say I'm a client of a different veterinary practice in Madison. Is it okay if I want to call my own vet rather than the official vet?
Call to talk, but as far as like seeing on site, I believe Midwest Horse Fair typically has us kind of diffuse the situation, basically. And like I said, we're great at working with all of their primary veterinarians. But certainly if it's just like a question, we talk through things all the time with our primary clients. So I don't think it's ever wrong if you have an ongoing question with your regular primary veterinarian to let them know. And they know that we're up there. So they typically are like, yeah, you should go see somebody that's there, like go find Marie, or they can talk through it and it's no big deal. So talking with their primary veterinarian first can be absolutely a good choice, depending how emergent the situation actually is. If it's a true emergency, that's why we're there on property, is just for the timeliness, because there's so much going on. It would be very challenging to be able to drive in, get parked, and get to the horse in a timely manner.
Oh, on that, hang on, Megan. I got a question.
No.
What you just said, where do you guys park so that you can get at your vehicle to get at the stuff you need? You're not running around with everything you need on you all the time. I mean, you'll have somewhat of a kit, but let's say you need stuff in your truck. Like, do they give you a primary spot so you can be, getting what you need quicker than, because what parking is like at Midwest Horse Fair.
Yes, we have a little VIP, just like 4 orange cones next to the shavings trailer. So the big Blaine's Farm and Fleet shavings trailer, we will be our trucks will get parked right over there.
Well, I just want to say I love how you all work together, all the veterinarians in the Madison area. Kudos to all of you for working together. I think it's wonderful as a horse trainer in this area that y'all get along. The other question I had was, is there an issue that's too minor that I shouldn't call the vet? Like, I know, kind of a silly question, but
I think if you're concerned, I would much rather answer a question early than sit on something and it become a dumpster fire later. So in general, whether horse fair or not, I would much rather, like, if it's concerning you, I would much rather have the conversation than let something go and be a true emergency later on. So I think if it's worth really thinking into, it's probably worth a phone call.
Have you ever had treatment situations at fair where the public has just become more of a nuisance, like they're crowding around, they're causing more of a problem, where you've had to kind of, I don't want to say call in crowd control, but have some measurement of either covering up the stalls so people can't see in, or asking staff to kind of, give the stall a perimeter? Has there ever been anything just wildly crazy like that where, you struggled to keep the horse calm? Maybe there's a lot of people, kids, I don't know.
Yeah. And certainly if it's like an anxious, because we do see that where horses kind of have like a panic attack. And if that is the case, like that can be dangerous, obviously. And like the number one thing is like keeping yourselves safe. So we do work with quite a few people that kind of run things on the grounds. And so Mitch is actually one of the main guys that we work with, who, if we have a problem with people that, even if it's more than we can directly say, hey, can you please like take a step back? Or if there's too many people to even deal with in the moment, we have a couple people to call, Mitch being one of them, to be another set of like an official Midwest Horse Fair personnel that can kind of take care of that aspect for us. And so just one less thing we have to worry about. But in general, people are pretty understanding and like they're big animals and become a little fearful if, you know, they are doing something wild. And so we, but often that's kind of the first step in things is like, hey, excuse me, we're like having a medical concern. If you don't mind stepping to the next aisle, I would really appreciate it. And so just kind of asking, or there's a lot of people like it takes a team to bring horses there. And so often there's more than just the owner there, not always, but sometimes a couple of people. And so they're able to kind of say like, help guide the public away from that area. Or like I said, often we'll actually try to go out of the barn if it's safe to do so, and just kind of get in a quiet area. Like listening to lung sounds in the middle of the speakers is really hard sometimes. So getting out of the barn and just like giving the horse a break and walking all the way away can both help my exam, but also just help the horse and the owner kind of get out of the situation.
What about biosafety measures? Because I always am on the fence, and this is coming from a horse owner. I don't like people touching my horse for multiple reasons in terms of like going from one horse to the other, but also I don't want them to bite. You know, because after so long, people touching my horse, like, or giving treats or something, they get a little mouthy. And so for me, I like to put the plastic on the stalls. But like, are there things that you could share or recommend to people, like not share buckets or tools? Like, what advice do you have there?
Absolutely. Good biosecurity in any large event with animals is important. Obviously, there's a lot of rules in place, and that's a huge part of Dr. Stephanie's role in keeping everything safe and running smooth ahead of time, is having those measures in place. If there's issues with any horse that we think could be sick, again, they have to have the proper paperwork to get in to try to mitigate those problems. But certainly a lot of horses in one location, just like children, can get sick. And so we do encourage people to take good measures, that being trying to kind of stay within your group. So if the horse comes with multiple horses from the same barn, like they're okay to kind of keep together. But if and when possible, like some years, they used to be able to skip stalls in between groups. It's becoming harder and harder with such a bigger fair, but definitely having signs up, just depending on your horse, if they have any concerns like that, or if they have any medical concerns, like they need a low sugar diet and cannot get treats because people will give them things. And so having a sign or something to deter people from, and kind of saying why, you know, sometimes it just says like, don't feed. And the public, I feel like, get dull to that. So sometimes just the why is helpful. Sometimes you get more questions, but it can be helpful, and people actually paying attention to be like, oh, I wouldn't want that horse to get sick. So that can be helpful. Same with like touching, like treats, but touching, that kind of thing. I don't worry too much about people like touching one horse and touching another horse. Like sure, something super contagious like could be spread, but luckily in horses, we don't have too many scary diseases like that. And we do our best to mitigate the risks of any of that even getting there. But I guess my number one pro tip would be don't stick the hose in the bucket. Things can live inside of a hose, especially some of our more common diseases. If, God forbid, that would happen, that is somewhere it can live for significantly longer than anywhere else. So the inside of a hose can hold bacteria for like 3 to 6 weeks longer than any other surface. So keep the hose outside of the bucket would be my pro tip.
Okay, so you mentioned briefly rodeo. So for those viewers who have no idea about the rodeo that occurs at Horse Fair, what kind of animals are there, and what is your involvement with the rodeo animals?
Truthfully, we don't do much aside from be a presence if an emergency were needed. So all the rodeo circuit is a well-oiled machine. Like, they take immaculate care of their animals, and the livestock that they travel with are better taken care of than most. Like, you would be amazed at how well all of those animals are taken care of because they travel so much, and that's their livelihood, that's their job. And so they're very efficient in what they need. So we don't have to do much aside from if there were an emergency, especially just to be a presence in the public eye. So being able to help, like, sedate a horse if something tragic were to happen in the middle of the arena, or a cow for that, like a bull. So be able to mitigate a truly emergent situation in the eyes of the public is why we're there.
So do you have to health check them coming in and out as well, just like all the other fair animals?
They have their own, because they're not staying, they still have to have their paperwork come through, but they don't have to be in and do the same health check at the same time. So their horses aren't in the barn. They are in their own stock trailer in the arena and back out. And so they're not intermingling with the rest. And so they don't have to come and do the same check-in process on Thursday, that they're just there for the evening and they leave the same evening. They don't stay on the grounds, but they still need Coggett's paperwork. They still need health paperwork to be traveling state to state.
What is your favorite aspect of horse fair, whether it's a vet or just you as a spectator? What are you looking forward to this year?
Oh, that's a good one. I haven't got to look at this year's stuff quite yet, but typically, what is my very favorite part? A little bit of shopping is always fun, but seeing some of the demos, like seeing some horses really enjoy their job, is probably my favorite part. So watching Megan ride is so fun because getting to see my patients do what they do best, like in real time, is so fun. Especially because we don't get to see that as often. We get to see them when they're sick, not when they're like healthy performing. We'll see pictures, but like getting to see it real time is really fun. So that is definitely one of my favorites, is like getting to catch a performance or something completely new that I know almost nothing about. So that's really fun too, like mounted shooting or something like that. Some of those are really fun to just hear why they do it, or kind of tidbits or catching little things. I don't get to like sit through a whole session very often, but sometimes. And so there's always something fun to learn.
Lisa and I had the same question. Who's your favorite fair food or favorite fair food vendor?
Ooh, I get impatient, so I don't often get, like, it used to be a gyro. I love getting a gyro, but now they're kind of ridiculous and the line gets long. So most of the time I end up at like the Wisconsin pork stand or something along those lines.
Oh, you got to try the acai bowl. We found it last year and it was amazing because I didn't feel guilty for eating it.
Right. It sounds fantastic. I think I know where that is, actually, now that you say it. Have to check it out.
I think didn't Derek earn a frequent flyer card? Yeah, you got to try it. Fabulous.
Perfect.
Yeah, even Lisa's saying the acai bowl.
Perfect. I'll have to do that. Put that on my list.
So you don't necessarily get to watch all the demos. You did mention that you guys do talks. Now, how long are your talks that you do, like in the neutrino rooms or?
Mm-hmm. Typically an hour. We have like hour sessions, and there's all sorts of educational talks, which I think sometimes like fly by the wayside in people, and some people get super into it. So I definitely would recommend like looking through them and catching a couple here or there, because there's definitely some really good ones. But typically an hour, and we cycle through, like usually we do 3 or sometimes 4 talks total for our practice, and usually like 1 Friday, 2 Saturday, 1 Sunday, something like that. I don't have the titles of our talks yet this year, so we'll see where they're at. We usually try to get a little creative in at least making our titles fun.
I think, learning about the Chinese medicine side of things, like acupuncture, is really neat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially because the public maybe they've got dogs and cats, and they could take a little bit from that kind of a conversation.
Definitely.
What have you done in previous years as far as what you've spoken about?
we were actually just talking about that this week. I was trying to remember what the other talks I had done. But I definitely have done both chiropractic and an acupuncture talk. I did a donkey talk last year. So that was, or 2 years ago, I think, on a whim. That was fun. Last year I did breeding. So like pregnancy in a mare. I think we did an emergency talk a couple of years ago. I think those were most of mine.
What about a lameness one with videos? Like to, 2 parts, like what you should expect from a lameness exam and why lameness exams are good on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2, like just for the average person, I'm just thinking of someone like how do you see it? What are you
Mm-hmm.
looking for as a vet, on a video? I don't know if you guys want to have videos. I mean, that seems like a lot of work, but I think it would be really helpful to a new horse owner, even myself as a refresher. Like, what are we looking for? Do we really see the right leg?
That's a great idea. I like that. I'll write that down.
And of course, Stephanie's going to hate this one. This is my favorite topic, is death. What do we do? I think that's I really actually want to have a vet come on and talk about how we should prepare as a farm owner and
Mm-hmm.
also as a boarder, because you don't own the farm. What do you do? So, and how do you prepare for that? But also what happens when your horse is still alive? So I think that would be cool. I know it's really morbid.
Could title it that.
Yeah, Stephanie thinks it's really morbid, but I'm like, not enough people talk about it, and it's part of horse ownership.
Yeah, that's huge. And planning ahead makes for the situation to be smoother. Yeah. And I completely agree. I think that's a really good one. I would be not happy. That's also morbid. I would be just fine giving that talk.
We have a question from our viewers. I understand your experience as acupuncture, and you mentioned chiropractic too. What is your view on MagnaWave?
MagnaWave is great. It's a great modality to help horses, especially athletes, kind of recovery with micro injuries. I do not we don't offer MagnaWave as a practice, but it's we know obviously a lot of lay people that are able to offer that service in our area. So I think it's fantastic. It can be integrated into a lot of different uses. And so I'm a big believer. I think it's great. We have a lot of different modalities that can accomplish similar things. And so when picking and choosing, it really just depends on the horse, depends on what they like, what they respond to, what the reasoning is for doing it. So we have other modalities like laser therapy that do similar things, but in just different circumstances. So it just depends on a lot of factors. My greatest answer is it depends, but in general is a great modality for a lot of horses and humans.
Oh, that could be a topic
That's
too. Talking about the laser for Midwest Horse Fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Laura has an old talk that she'd given from that, which is fine. Sometimes we have to like use ideas or bits and pieces from really old stuff because we're like, oh, that's a good one. It hasn't been talked about in a long time. So
and it looks like we have a great question from Lisa. What footwear do you wear to keep you happy and your feet happy for 4 days?
That's a great question. My feet hurt no matter what. Like walking on concrete for 4 days is definitely rough. I change shoes. I go between my cowboy boots and my redbacks like every other day or halfway through the day.
You have an open invitation to do the cold plunge at Lindenhof.
Ooh,
that might be helpful.
That could be. Oof, I don't know how. It's hard. Cold is hard.
It's very hard, but it's worth it because you will feel better the next day. I promise you.
I believe that.
Open invitation to all Country View vets. They can come over, use the sauna and the cold plunge all 4 days.
Nice.
We had somebody suggest a topic of like how to shoot a lameness video. If you're worried your horse is lame and like maybe you're a distance from your vet clinic, that would be interesting. Like what you guys would be looking for if somebody was to record a video, the views you want to see,
Yeah.
Way straight, you want to see them on lunge, all the above. That might be interesting.
Great.
Although I'm not sure you could talk about that for an hour. I think it would be really neat as a part of a lameness discussion. Nice idea.
That's great. That's really great. My kind of top idea, like fun inside view, is kind of like when to call. And so just educating owners about reasons you should call immediately, waiting like a timeline of when it's appropriate to call your vet in general, and kind of some good examples, but also how to help us when you do call. So that's a great example of like, what are we looking for when we ask for a video? Can you send me a video? We say that all the time, right? But what does that necessarily mean is very different for different people. So I think that's a fantastic. I will add that to a slide. Thanks.
How about the transition as horses move into their geriatric, maybe their upper teens, geriatric years, the things for people to look for as far as horses that are maybe moving towards insulin resistance or PPID. I mean, there's a million things you could talk about the aging horses, right?
Yeah.
Feet problems, teeth problems, all the above. I think those are really important conversations to have with owners.
Definitely. Dr. Judy did a geriatric tech, I think last year, maybe the year before. That was really well attended. It was a really good one.
Got another question from the viewers. Do you like owners to be able to tell you temperature and pulse and respiration when they're calling you?
I do, if they know their horse is normal, especially. So I encourage people to know their own horse is normal, so that when they call and they say, well, my horse's heart rate is 60 and it's normally 40, that is concerning. They don't have to be perfect by any means, but if they can just in general already have that kind of practice skill of knowing their horse is normal, it can be really helpful.
I think this has been a great live stream, Dr. Marie. We are getting close to an hour. And is there anything that we have not asked you and that we should?
I don't think so. I look forward to seeing you all at Horse Fair. You will both be there, I assume.
Yes, exhausted.
Yeah.
We'll be there with you.
Absolutely.
I'll be riding. There'll be 2 horses. Barn Besties will be everywhere, interviewing people. So I hope everyone comes out, sees us. And what else? We will also have a booth in
Awesome.
the stable lane. So, and I'm riding a lot.
Awesome. I'll get to catch one at least.
Well, if you're doing the rodeo, I'll actually be riding right before the rodeo. So if you're one of the vets on call, we'll be doing a really amazing demo with Mario, and that'll be AJ. He'll have a blast. So
I love it. That just makes my day. That's really
Yeah.
fun. And to bring something into the rodeo nights is fun. I'm glad they're mixing it up. That makes me happy.
Yeah, so I am going to be very excited to see you. Hopefully there will be no emergencies. We'll just get to do like maybe a short couple of selfies, gotta
Perfect.
do all the things, And yeah, but thank you so much for taking your time. You're super busy. I so appreciate you because you could be spending this time with your family or on call. And so we, the Barn Besties, really appreciate you and everything that you do for our horses. And I know Midwest Horse Fair does. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, glad I
Yeah.
could. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. We're looking forward to seeing you in April. Hopefully we can all manifest some lovely weather for the horse fair. We've got a beautiful long weekend, right, Megan?
That's right.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody. Make sure you hit
Bye.
subscribe, and we will
Bye,
see you all on
Dr.
our
Marie.
next videos. Good night, ladies.
Thanks.